feature some of the new additions, some of the quality of life improvements, and then I'll kind of just open up the floor and we can kind of talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We got the Cock household, the new Big Ten rivals. We got Bracket and Guac, fellas.
I am no longer answering to that name.
Okay. We got the Ducks and the Bucks. The Uck
There you go.
household.
What's going on, fellas?
We got Van. What's up, Van?
What's going on, everyone?
And joining us for the first time in a while, the light-skinned man who never has a plan. Please put your hands together for Coach Stuntan.
COPS, tops, tops, tops.
There you go.
I got bars.
Well,
We're, but yeah, let's get into it, fellas. I'll go ahead and share the screen over here. We'll kind of get right into our deep dive. Real quick, let's go, Van. You read it all, I'm guessing. I hope.
Yep.
Initial thoughts. What? Happy, sad, disappointed.
Oh,
What's up?
well, very, very, very happy. It's just for the first time, it's like there's way too much to digest, right? I'm still thinking about it. I listened to it. I read it today at work. Thanks, work. And then I listened to it all the way home on the YouTube. And then, the one thing that really kind of sticks out of all of it is the coaching trees are so different, and I think it's going to have a bigger effect than people think. So that's my initial thought. I can't wait to talk about that.
100% coaching tree improvements, adjustments, all this stuff that can scare you, potentially players leaving, coaches leaving, whatever it is. There are ways to circumvent that and build up your coaches in a way where they can prevent some of that from happening, which I think you're going to have to see big school coaches built differently than small school coach. Like it's going to be, there's a lot of effort that goes into it, I think, especially with our smaller XP scale for coaches. Those points are hard to come by sometimes. So
Yeah, it's crazy. And all the extra recruiting hours are now elite.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to be very interesting. Boone, what about you, sir? What was the initial thought?
Honestly, of all the things that they gave us, I was super excited to see that I can have my sleeves cut off with my coach's shirt.
Yeah.
Now, I think they did a really good job, at least on face value, listening to the feedback that they had from some of the small things that really like went left in this game. And I think that if they do what they say they're doing, right, where they
Yep.
they fix the logic on the coaching carousel, if it works properly, that's gonna be fantastic. But I'm not gonna
Yes.
lie, of all these changes, if you do all this crap, you fix the portal and you add all these points and you revamp stuff, and the socks still don't fucking work, I'm gonna lose
Yeah.
my mind.
Yep. Right there with you. Bracket. Well, real quick, shout out to everybody in the chat. I didn't expect to have too many people. I think we got 12 in there right now. Shout out to you guys. Feel free to post what you're most excited about in the chat. We can kind of talk about it. If you got questions, how anything from the deep dive relates to what we're going to do in the league, go ahead and post it. I got Boone's future coach up on the screen, just in Oregon stuff. Bracket, what about you? I know you jumped right in and read it. Initial thought? What
Bracket can read.
Bracket can't. Bracket can't.
Hang
Bracket can't.
on.
Manel,
Oh,
sorry. Manel.
Wrong person. I think that with all of the letdowns we've been force fed over the last, let's call it 5 years. Right? It's been longer than that. But okay.
You're the Ducks,
With
get it?
all of the yeah, I get it. With all of the letdowns we've been force fed from EA giving promises to correct things, I feel like we've finally been at least mostly heard for the first time in quite some time. They gave us a lot of cool stuff that we get to work with.
They definitely heard the community because like the big one from day one of last cycle was like, dude, no formation subs, and they came out
Yep.
like a month and a half ago, and they were like, college football 26 will have formation subs. Like they didn't even wait for the deep dive. They like put it out there. It was like, we have formation subs. Don't worry, it's coming. So you're spot on there. They definitely listened to the community, which is always good. They can't listen to everybody, but they hear the bulk of we didn't get our
Yeah.
hanging mouth guards and things like that, but we got
I heard the devs. I kind of heard the devs go like hunting on Reddit forums and stuff for
they look at
consistent.
everything.
Yeah, that's impressive, man.
Yep. Pride said his thing he's most looking forward to is depth chart not resetting when redshirting. And Guac would like to
That's a
boot.
real big thing.
Guac would like to boot John Ball. Guac.
Seems
Speaking
aggressive.
of Guac, what um
Ask me about
speaking
my
of
winner.
speaking of Guac and the Ohio State Buckeyes, what are you most excited about, or what was your initial take from the deep dive?
Well, I'm kind of like I'm with Van right now. With there's just so much going on. There's a lot of stuff that's going to change. A lot of stuff for the good. However, it's just I just hope they don't change too much at once, and a lot of shit doesn't. I hope they don't break something else. You know, with all these changes, that's kind of what I'm concerned about at this point. But I'm nonetheless excited.
So I'm to be 100% honest, I got to work this morning, did a couple things at work, and then around 9 o'clock, I opened up the college football 25 Dynasty deep dive, and I kind of scrolled through it because I was like, let's see what these fuckers didn't deliver on last year that we were all excited about, and I kind just to like lower my expectations, a little bit. And there is a bunch of stuff we thought we were getting the coolest stuff ever, and it was very. You can go back and listen to this show last year. We were head over heels for some of these features, and I don't even think we saw some of them. So I kind of
Can you
tempered my
blame us, though?
expectations.
Can you
What?
blame us? Can you
Oh,
blame us
dude,
though?
no,
Right, bro.
no. Like you said, like we said it last year. They could have gave us NCAA 14 that we were able to play on our Xboxes now, and I would have been completely fine with it, with not a single change made. So, what they gave us last year was awesome. Obviously, I think my biggest gripe outside of computer teams not recruiting at all, because that was kind of a dynasty breaker for us.
Yep.
It let small schools get way too good. It let the powerhouse schools get every single 5-star and elite 4-star. And the computer, like Alabama finished at an 83 overall, dude. Like an 83 overall is just crazy. Like that's lower than like what Boise State starts the game at. And you go look at their roster, and they have like 7 fullbacks. They got like 3 kickers and 3 punters. It's like, oh, you're recruiting, but you're just recruiting the positions no one else is going after. So there was definitely, and then the other thing for me, the visit logic, it was basically just like a sniping in free agency in Madden, where it's just whoever ended up being on console and got that key visit got the stud player. You could kind of tell after everyone got their visits, you're like, okay, so Busy's getting this guy, NWS is getting this guy, LSU's getting this guy. Now it looks like, at least in the beta, they weren't committing after visits. Like they keep those weeks open, and especially if you get into one of those recruiting battles, it kind of gives everybody it gives those two teams a chance to kind of duke it out and see what happens. So very excited that we might see some improvement there. But let's go ahead and kind of get into it. We're not gonna watch the video because those are just a giant waste of time. I love Herb Street, but those are a giant waste of time. Well, we can get rid. The first thing, we'll go to the first main heading. Really, the first thing they came up with was the coach. Obviously, we're not going to be using the real life coaches, but it will be cool to see the teams, the computer teams. No one's from Georgia, so we got Kirby Smart in there. Like it's going to be cool to see the way coaches are built out, and what if it has an effect on how they're recruiting, how they're building their team, and kind of stuff like that. They're maybe Kirby Smart, his players aren't going to transfer as much because maybe he has the ability where his guys aren't going to leave, that kind of thing. There's our picture of our coach. They did give us new options for the coach, which is I'll take editing options all day. I think that's whether it's coaching or players, more customization is always good, even if problem is they got too many white people. I've said it a million times. Too many white people have a say in this game, and they need to change it up a little bit because it is bad. And I'm a white person, if you guys didn't know. So
I didn't.
what?
You're beige.
I didn't
You're
know that.
beige by association.
Yeah, there you go. That's light skin. Boone's favorite feature is coach apparel, says Tide Pod.
Oh, listen, I'm about to be suns out, guns out, baby.
Like you said, we can already guarantee JMO's coach is going to be wearing the most ridiculous thing possible. So be very interesting to see what he's looking like.
call it porn star badge.
Yeah.
The stash, the fucking 70 stash. Yeah, all that.
Yes, it's going to be very interesting with the coaching abilities, coaching trees in general. They threw a lot of stuff at us with. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling through to get to some of the important stuff. Um, Basic three archetypes stay the same. You still have the recruiter, the motivator, the tactician. Um, and they were saying it's if you go the recruiter path to unlock like elite recruiter, it's a little bit cheaper or easier. Where if you try to then flip to like get the motivator stuff or the tactician stuff, it's going to take you a little longer or maybe be more expensive to upgrade to that because that's not your strong suit. So you can't just crank your guy up at everything. You got to kind of take your time and work your way up if you want to be a balanced coach kind of thing. I do think it's going to be a huge advantage to those coaches who can win early. And unlock like Brap. Brap last year won 2 national titles in like 3 seasons or something, and he had like the top tier, the CEO or whatever it was called, unlocked so early before anyone else, and it really helps. And thank God it was Brap, and he didn't really know what he was doing. But it definitely create, gives you a huge advantage. Program builder, CEO, they're here. What did you guys like? Van, we'll start with you. Did you like how they had the coaching trees and abilities last year? With the improvements, what's your initial take on this?
I think recruiter was way overpowered, right?
Everybody
And
went recruiter. I think every single
yeah,
person went recruiter.
and I think the second one down on the first tier was add extra hours, or the third one. The third one was add extra hours.
Yeah, you got to
And
work your way to that one this year.
so that was 15 points, right? And then
Yeah.
boom, he's yours. And then so it created everybody could have that no matter whether you won or whether you lost. It didn't matter. And I think what happened is now it wasn't different enough. And now if you look at the trees, I paused it on a couple of videos. They have some transfer portal stuff on there that looks interesting. They have like a dynamic dev trait where you can lower the grade, for the higher schools, but they're all separated all over the map. So I have no idea until I kind of play a few what the best angle is there, because like you said, jumping to another archetype as a coach to get those, it's expensive.
Yeah. Boone, the coaching carousel, you mentioned it. Not only is it going to help us users get better offers, but I think it's going to be a lot harder to keep your coordinators if you're having success, which means coordinators, like a lot of guys who find those coordinators that give them the extra hours and they could, throw 80 points on a recruit. Now, those, if you win a bunch, if you're successful, your coordinators are probably getting head coaching job offers, ASAP. So it's going to be a lot of coordinator shuffling and trying to keep that, unless you unlock those coaching abilities where the coordinators are more likely to stay. The carousel, you're starting at Western Kentucky. You started at JMU this past cycle, and I think we all quickly realized like the carousel sucked. You could win your conference, you could win, whatever, and you're getting, UAB offensive coordinator. And you're like, I just went 12-0 at JMU, almost made the playoff. You didn't, but almost, that kind of thing. Carousel is huge for when, especially when you're running 15 seasons. What's your take? Yeah, what's your take on the carousel? Are you a fan of the improvements they made?
So again,
Well,
it's
they made
a lot of how are you gonna actually come through with the things that you're saying? Right?
Yep.
Like it's nice that you added the fact that we can see when the coordinators go, because I felt like a lot of times, especially in my offlines too, I'd lose a coordinator. And I'm just like, wait, when the fuck did he leave?
Yeah,
Like,
you
I
didn't even know. Yep.
And now you're stuck. And now instead of being able to offer 80 points to a guy, you can only offer 65. And you're like, bro, hold on. So it can definitely change the way you handle things. But a lot of it comes down to like how much did you fix the logic and who gets offered a position?
Yeah.
Like part of me wonders, why do I even have an alma mater if they're never going to offer me a job?
Exactly.
Like that
Yeah.
doesn't really add up. I thought that meant like, oh, I do well, they have an opening, I have a better chance of getting them. UTSA never called. Not a single
No.
fucking time.
Yep.
Not like it was some great school, but like you never even called, and I went to your school. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
there were supposed to be. Now we never saw if it worked or not. But there were supposed to be certain schools where you had to be an alma mater to even be considered.
So in NCAA
where it
14
wasn't like you
in
get a better shot.
yeah, in
Go ahead.
NCAA 14, that was a thing. Like if you said it as your alma mater, you were very likely to get the job offer from that school. It was almost like the first time that job opens up, you were a candidate no matter what. So I'm hoping we see some of that logic brought back. I highlighted on the screen on the program builder abilities. Now you have that forever home. Your coordinators are less likely to leave for another job. You have the deal sweetener, where coordinators are more likely to accept your job offer, and then cream of the crop, which increases the caliber of coordinators that are available for you to hire. Which again, anything that promotes getting like get just I mean I think everyone spent their first 100 points in the recruiter tab. Um, so anything that promotes, everyone building their coach a little bit different, I am all for, because I think that's, just like player archetypes. You don't want to see everyone has an elusive back. Everyone's got a deep threat receiver. Everyone's got the scrambling quarterback. Everyone's got the, coverage corner. Like you want people to build their teams where it makes
I,
sense. And
I don't think this does that.
what?
I'm not gonna lie. I might be pessimistic here. I don't think this does that because I've had multiple franchise or dynasties with different like styles of coaches, and I can tell you wholeheartedly the one about like the building of players. What is it? Not
Tag,
tactician.
the other one.
Motivator.
Yeah, yep.
Motivator. Like I did not see my players jump any higher
No.
than anyone else in the league. I never had a slew of
Didn't
90,
work.
and I'm in one of my dynasties with I have the Alabama, and we're a 95 overall team. But I don't have any excessive players that are going crazy. I just have good recruiting. So honestly, just looking at it, tactician is cool because you get the instant bump to their abilities in game every game.
Yep.
That's really awesome because those players that are lacking, you get some bumps to some players, and now these 87s look like 91s or 90s.
Yeah.
But I think everybody's going to be a recruiter. Program builder is the ability after you get a certain number of
Yeah.
wins in the playoffs. But then when you get there, it's just you're better off bumping your pipelines up.
Yep.
So I think
100%.
it's going to be the same thing this year.
I do think in our dynasty, when you're playing against 32 other users and recruiting is such a big thing, especially when you're playing 15 seasons and you're either, if you're a top team, you're trying to beat the other top teams for recruits. If you're a small team, you're trying to give yourself a chance in the recruiting. Um, so I do agree with you. I still think recruiter is going to be the primary, pick for most, but I do think there's going to be options for other things to take place. So we'll see. Time will tell, but I do think we see majority go recruiter. It'll all depend what you get in there and test and see what you like. The next thing they got trophy room. The trophy room looks cool. I think coming from having nothing, where you couldn't even go back and look at past champions or past award winners, and we had to have it all written down and recorded. Nice step in the right direction. Again, they're kind of going back to the NCAA 14, where you could kind of add your trophy to your trophy room. Now you can actually go in and see it, and then you can click in and go look at the last. Yeah, I think they had national champions back to like 1989 or something. Um, Same thing with Heisman. So that's the trophy room's a cool addition. I think better than not having it at all. You can kind of see the pictures on the screen. Looks kind of cool. But outside of that, not a super like people are making a huge deal of it. It's not that cool. One thing I don't like that the trophy room is like your trophy room for everything. Like if you win the national championship or Road to Glory and you go to your trophy room, it's going to show your Road to Glory national championship. I just want to see what happens inside of our dynasty for the most part. So I wish you could have kept that kind of separate, but um, let's kind of get into I think what could be the biggest change of them all, if it works, is the transfer portal. Um, I think everything they did that will help big schools, the transfer portal kind of evens it out now and should give these smaller schools a seat at the table for some of these big time recruits. Um, it's hard to tell until we get in there and see what happens. But the portal itself is going to be massive. They said 1,000 to 3,000 players. And what I hear it says 2,000 players entering the portal. Um, you got to think, some small schools, you get in the portal and you had like two prospects and they were both 2 stars that were interested in you. I think because of the whole playtime thing, it's really gonna give the small schools a chance at some of these guys,
Oh
which I
yeah.
So
think is sweet. Go ahead, you guys
I got
got
a,
the floor.
I got a quick question.
Yeah,
If somebody leaves for playing time, so
Ask me about my winner.
if somebody if somebody leaves, I'll talk to you about it if you want. But
Oh, hang on.
if somebody leaves for playing time, a big school, say Ohio State, if they're going to jump into another situation with a bunch of good receivers, are they going to go a tier down to look for playing time, or are they just going
that
to go
so
from
that's
higher?
what it hopefully will be. Where you're not jumping Ohio State to Alabama, you're going Ohio State to like that next
Yeah,
tier of players that is where you can look to get playtime. I hope. Um,
yeah. That would suck
because
if it just went
yeah,
from one to
yeah,
yeah,
if 5 stars are just jumping to other 5 star schools, which I'm sure there's going to be some that are like that based off of their deal breakers. If they, their goal is still, pro potential or championship or whatever, hopefully they still look at that. But if their primary deal breaker is playing time, I would like to see them, look for that actual place they can play, which would be really cool. I do like they did say that the transfer portal rankings now, if a 5 star entered the portal after he would be like dropped to like a 4 star, or a 4 star be dropped to like a 3 star. They were saying that if it's a stud freshman that enters the portal, he's going to come in and he'll still be ranked really high. He'll be ranked higher than maybe a senior quarterback or a senior offensive lineman who only has one season left, even if that guy's a higher overall. So I think that's pretty cool from a ranking standpoint. I think they're gonna, hopefully the years the person has left plays a bigger role in how they're still ranked and that kind of thing. And the one thing they mentioned, I don't know if they mentioned it in the deep dive, but they said transfers would get that off-season bump in the
yeah.
training that they didn't get this last year, which is cool to see. Boone, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
About the transfer. Well, so
Yeah,
my
yeah,
thing is right. The feature of the players going to find more playtime is paramount because
yeah,
it makes no sense why a 5 star quarterback or receiver would sit on a roster behind 6 or 7 receivers or 3 or 4 or 5 quarterbacks that are like sophomores and juniors, and you're like, bro, you're never gonna touch the field.
never.
So it's time that they look down at these other schools, like I don't know, a Western Kentucky.
Yep.
However, since about 2/3 of this league is full of pussies who decide to
Ooh.
take top tier teams,
Ask
you
me
don't
about
deserve to
my
see
winner.
any of these transfer portal players because they can't play for you either.
Yep.
Okay, they need
I
to
like
come.
that they tied it to snaps.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because if it was going to be tied to
Physical
depth
playing
chart,
time.
if it was going to be tied to depth chart again, I was going to because then if you want a guy to have playtime, you set him as your number one receiver, but then all your formation subs have that guy on your bench. And I was going to make it that if you have a starter, he needs to be on the field every play. Like we were going to have rules in place for that. So I'm happy they tied it to snaps, snaps and stats and that kind of thing because that's going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of roster management. At least again, we're speaking in hypotheticals. We're just going off what we see from this deep dive article. Um, that's really cool because then you if you have a receiver who's angry, maybe you're throwing him in on some run plays just so he gets some downs to play. Like maybe your running back that is your backup running back or your guy you want to keep for next year. Maybe you're throwing him in to block on some of your pass plays. Maybe you're using multiple players, which I think all that is going to tie into wear and tear anyways. I think wear and tear they made it sound like
Oh, it's
if
about to get wild.
yeah, and we have the ability to crank up those settings. Oh, you
Yeah,
better
yeah.
Easy.
Crank it the fuck up.
you better get used to using the whole 85-man roster. That is for sure. Um, but yeah, that's the big thing. So, and like they say here, the transfer portal isn't just a mechanic, it's a philosophical choice. A lot, do you want to build with high school talent and let them develop that way? Do you want to go to the portal? You got decisions you got to make. The one thing I was really hoping for, which it doesn't sound like we get, but I really wanted to see you. I wanted to see cuts before the portal. So then you knew, okay, I have 6 roster spots available. I can only go in and get, 6 players at most in the portal, and then my scholarships are gone. Because in real life, you're not going and getting, 20 people in the portal and then cutting players who have already been on your team. That's all been made beforehand. And the portal is just kind of like, okay, I got 5 roster spots. I still need a quarter, let's fill it out. So I was hoping we'd see something for that, and maybe we will in the future. But that was one of the not disappointments, but one of the things I was really hoping we saw. But there was no mention of that. But it's going to be very interesting between making. You're going to have to keep your players happy. You're going to have to get your recruits, and you got to be smart with your recruits, especially if you're one of these top tier schools. If there's guys that want playing time, and he's sitting for a year or two, you might never get to play that player. And if you do play that player, then you might be losing your junior stud receiver who's already a 90 overall or something like that. So it's going to be very interesting. The big schools might win the recruiting battles and get all these 5 stars and 4 stars on campus. But then it comes down to how do you manage the playtime for those guys to keep them all happy and get them onto the field? Because it did say as players get better, and should be playing, their grade, it might be a B plus at the start, then it might jump to a B, an A, then it might jump to an A, A minus, then an A. Where that's what I like to see, where the guy turns into an 85 overall as a redshirt freshman, and he's like, okay, I need to be on the field now, and if I don't have a path to get on the field now, I'm out of here. Which that's
Makes
again,
sense.
yeah,
Makes sense.
Dynamic
100%.
needs is awesome.
Yes, it's a huge addition. Like we said, though, I just hope it's not a 5 star player jumping from a 5 star to another
Yeah,
5 star
yeah.
school.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to wait and see. But I hope there's some, because there are players in real life who transfer from Alabama to Georgia or LSU to whatever. But there's also some, there's the 5 star from Oregon, the quarterback who he sat on Oregon's bench for 3 seasons and then he transferred to Tulane. Because and that's if you get to that point, you're literally just looking for a chance to play before you get off and go to the draft. So hopefully we see a good mix of guys looking at. I don't need to see a 5 star target, the Eastern Michigan, but if he wants playtime, and Eastern Michigan's the only school that has a spot, you better be considering Eastern Michigan. So
Let me tell you,
um,
Western Kentucky has a spot for that young man.
yeah.
All right, come on down.
Yep. 100%. Like we said, you could be quarterback, you could be safety, you could be kicker, kick
Whatever you want.
returner. Yeah, we'll get you on the field.
Call the
Um,
plays if that's what it takes to get your
yeah,
ass
you
down
want to
here.
be
Come on now.
OC? Perfect. Um, but yeah, so that's gonna be very interesting. I really like to see the playtime for 4 and 5 stars being a huge impact, because in real life that's what it is. Nobody is sitting for 3 seasons or 2 seasons without a clear path or a clear plan to play. So it's going to be very interesting with some of these rosters out of the box. Glock, you're in a tough situation at Ohio State where, yeah, you might be able to go get 5 stars, but you have to then find a balance between those 5 stars and your already loaded roster. If you bring in the number one receiver in the country and you still have Jeremiah Smith, you're not going to bench Jeremiah Smith. So then maybe that 5 star is like, well, I'm out of here, dude. But hopefully that's what we see. Well, not for your sake, but for
I'm just hoping the carousel works, man. I'm
yeah,
hoping to have
that's
one
yeah.
good season at Ohio State and get the fuck out of Dodge, bro. What?
No, you'll be there
You
for
took
at
Ohio
least.
State to leave?
Yeah.
North Carolina's calling my name.
But yeah,
Wild
this,
thing.
like you just mentioned, bracket though, in college football 25, projected the depth chart of the next 4 years. So this is what we need to see. We need to see the playing time deal breaker evaluated their projected depth chart position over the next 4 years. Um, that's where in 26 playtime with the snaps and stuff, it's going to be a game changer. If you're not getting any snaps, they better be out of there the first chance they get. They should do a middle of the season. I don't care. At the minute you put them in that depth chart number 2 spot or whatever, that 5 star should be like, I'm out of here, bro. This is not what I signed up for. I'm supposed to be the guy. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works. So anything else on the portal before we kind of move on? Because this is a long article.
Nope.
I love how they called your friend from being a cheese artist and redshirting every player on their roster, because that was all of us. Anyone at a big school, you could just load up on the same position, and then when your senior graduated, you pop in that junior who's already a 90 overall, and you plug and play and just keep going. So,
It was utterly
um,
crazy because when I called in a favor and said, "Hey, could you back off this guy?" Nick is like, "Man, fuck you. He belongs in the duck jersey." I'm like, "Dog, you have 6 other quarterback. Like, it's not.
well,
It's
that's
just
you know
gluttony, you know."
that's what we needed at the time. So we'll see what happens.
He
So
never touched the field. I don't think. Like,
yeah,
I just
and then you got evolving expectations. Same thing. No more fixed grades. They're going to change. The dynamic deal breakers are really going to hopefully play a role, and that's you're going to have to really. It's going to be fun to watch some of these people try to manage their rosters with bringing in 5-star. It's going to be very real, very just like real life. So I love to see it. Very interesting. Bracket, they used Decorium Moore as their guy in the picture. You nervous? We'll
No.
see what happens. We will see.
No. He's getting so many targets.
Um,
Now, question: do we know if they added the ability to like decommit if like let's say championship contender, and then you lose 2 games and they're like, yeah, nah, you're not really winning. I'm gonna just I'm gonna renege on
That
this.
would be
Why?
both cool and
yeah,
potentially
that's
devastating.
what you'd love to see because I mean we saw it firsthand with Riot at Georgia. Riot was bringing in 9, 7, 8, 9 5-stars, and he's a 4-win team. Where in real life, every single one of those 5-stars would have decommitted on the spot before they even got to the offseason. So I hope
You lost week 1 to Temple?
yeah.
Hey man,
I mean, think
we're gonna
about
have to
this.
reconsider.
Yeah. But again, you got if players do decide to leave, abilities within the program builder archetype can help. So a gift of gab, additional persuasion attempts, which could play a huge role. So stuff that you didn't touch in the last game. I don't know if anyone did the additional persuasion attempts. Um, Increased
Oh,
chance of, and then you have the roster retainer, increased chance of persuading a player to stay, full refund, get an additional persuasion attempt if one of your players' attempts is successful. So there's going to be options in there, which that's what I'm saying. So some of these bigger teams, bigger schools are going to have to really utilize. They're going to have to get that program builder built up quick because you're going to be
Yep.
a level 1 coach and not have the ability, out of the box season 1 and season 2 to keep some of these players, which is why I think it's going to be a little crazy at the start, and that portal is going to be crazy juiced up.
what's
If you,
what's program builder, Nick? 5 playoff games?
Yeah, playoff wins
yeah, I
5.
believe it's 5 playoff wins, which is very
Yeah.
tough to get in a 32-person league, and it's very tough to get at a
Man,
small school.
man,
What'd you say?
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Especially when they return punts.
yeah, that
That's
that was, yep.
crazy.
But it will be very interesting to see. Because if you were just to take over Georgia out of the box and use Kirby Smart, Kirby Smart is a level 50 coach who has all of these abilities. So now you're going to be a level 1 coach that doesn't have any of those abilities, and like you might need those extra persuasion attempts season 1 and season 2, and you're not going to have them. So I'm very curious to see how it works, with a lot of these big time schools early on. So I'm very excited to see that, especially as a smaller, UCF, a smaller, not an elite program. I'm excited to see how that kind of works. So, um,
Yep.
but they did very cool. They gave us the sliders for the transfer portal where you can adjust how many players can transfer from a single team from 0 to 30. We're gonna have that cranked all the way to 30. So you might lose your whole team.
Are you for real or you just fucking around?
No, we're having it at 30. It's gonna be all the way up. So if 30 people are leaving, 30 people are leaving. So you better
What?
we might see, why we're not gonna give people a break on this. That's if you can't manage the roster, you better be ready
Let's
for those
commit
guys
to
to leave.
testing this first.
Nah, it's 30, bro. It's already been tested.
It sounds like a
Trans
lot.
Tested for what?
It's been tested. It is locked in. Transfer probability, same thing. You can set it for user teams and computer teams. This could be our way of helping the computer rosters stay a little bit better for longer if they don't recruit well. So that one might change for CPU or transfer probability. You still want to find that balance where the portal is fun for us, but we don't want to just decimate all the computer teams who we're just beating up on. I can assure you, the computer teams are going to be good this cycle, though. I will make sure of that. Um,
Oh no.
that's the goal. Um, the what else? Pro potential. They were talking as far as the my school grades. They kept the 14 of them, so it's the exact same categories. Um, but now they said they revamped them all for each school. So they said there will be a lot fewer teams now set at the A or B range. So there's going to be a wider range between those top schools and the worst schools, which is is going to be cool to see. Really make some of those schools have to build from the ground up. And the pro potential one specifically, that is now based off of the historic draft results over the past 4 seasons, tracked by position. So if you have if your quarterback's consistently getting drafted, ideally your quarterback has pro potential. You're going to attract. Hopefully, you'll attract those quarterbacks that want to go pro, which I think could be really cool because that's kind of what would happen in real life. That like I posted. If I had a quarterback win the Heisman for 6 straight years, every single quarterback recruit should have me at number one on their list, and I should have my pick of the litter of who I want to be my next quarterback. If their goal is, you know, awards, pro potential, that whole thing. So, that
If you value making it to the league, accolades,
yeah.
awards, if you value being good at your job, maybe you go to Oregon.
Well, not anymore because brackets there, but yes, in College Ball 25
Fuck
for
off.
sure. that's for sure. Um, But yeah, so the pro potential one's gonna be very interesting. I think the grades changing around. It's I think some of the small schools have a tough time at the start because you what if you looked at that spreadsheet they made for all the college football 25 schools and they had all those grades. I know I was looking for my schools like UCF and UCLA and some of those teams. I was like, oh, UCF's a B minus here. Oh, UCF's a B plus here. I'm fully anticipating to see a lot of
Yeah.
C's. I'm now
They said even lower than that.
yeah, I'm anticipating to see some very bad grades, and I think I'm gonna have my work cut out for me. Um, which is it's how it should be though. If I'm trying to compete with a smaller school or a worse school, you really got to work your way up or find those players or those prospects that meet your deal breakers and want to come for those maybe 3 or 4 good decent grades you have. So um, playing style, okay. The biggest change, location-based recruiting. This is kind of a double-edged sword. We can use my team as an example. UCF. If I'm recruiting players in Florida to come visit, it's only going to cost me 10 recruiting hours, which is great. But it's also only going to cost Miami 10 hours for those guys to be scheduled visits as well. So it's like that double-edged sword where if you're a small school, you got to find players around you where you can save those 30 hours because now theoretically you could for the price of one visit last year you could have 4 visits scheduled for 40 hours, 10, 10, and 10 and 10, which I think will be very interesting, especially because they mentioned if you get the one ability, the one coaching ability where you double your visits, so in 1 week. So instead of just 4 visits, you can have 8 players visit, which you get that the bonus and the comp visit still will still like stack up on top of each other. So instead of just having 3 visits that are helping you out, you could have 7 other visits. If you have all offensive linemen or all whatever visit, you could really benefit from staying close to home with a lot of these grades, which very, very interesting. What do you guys think on that? It's obviously going to help, the Miamis, the Floridas, the Texas, the California schools who now only have to spend 10 hours on visits. But what's your, I think it's going to be easier to keep players at home now, I think. Thoughts? Bracket, will go to you first.
I mean, I think it was already relatively easy to not lose a Florida recruit if you were in Florida.
Very, very hard too.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to change anything for us, unfortunately. Aside from giving the smaller schools a shot at them, whereas the schools that have the cross country reach,
Yeah.
you won't see as much of Miami jumping into
Or is this
California
California?
or Oregon getting into Florida.
Yeah.
And that's not the worst thing in the world, but
Again, though,
would like to see some disparity.
very realistic though. It's much cheaper to bring someone to campus when they live a mile, 10 miles from your school, rather than
Sure.
fly someone on a private jet across the country. So, um, yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out because I really don't know yet until we get in there and see it how it's going to look because I think you'll still be able to go in and do it. You're just going to lose some hours. Where you could maybe for Oregon, for example, is it worth going for the 5-star down in Florida when you can just try to grab the 4 or 5 guys in California who might only cost 20 points, 20 hours a visit? That's all yet to be seen. So, um, gonna be very interesting. That's one of the. But again, that you have to get to. I think the CEO archetype. So you have to win what 2 national championships before you can unlock the double visit thing and that kind of thing. So,
Yep.
it's gonna, and that's where some of the top schools are gonna need to do that quick. Drew at LSU, Brackett at Oregon, gonna have to, really, really get on that quick so you get that huge advantage. Because there's gonna be teams that never, what 27 of our users won't even come close to getting the CEO badge for their coach. Maybe even more,
I'd say
29. Yeah.
accurate. Yeah.
Because what? How many? VBD won 2, Drew won
Tide
2,
Pod.
Busy won 2. Tide Pod only won 1. He lost 1. It's going to be tough to, it's tough to win 2 national championships, which is how it should be. But early on is your best shot when none of the small schools can really compete, and you got to go from there. So, um, but I do like that your coordinators play a big role in it. Where if your coordinator has certain badges, it can help with certain things too, which will kind of bring in the picking your coordinator wisely. Maybe you're not picking the coordinator who has all recruiting stuff, or maybe it's gonna be very interesting what we see there. This next tab, the discovering the next star, um, that was about like it's gonna be what they say, our kind of guys, yeah, which the OKGs. Very, they were talking about how they took a lot of those like elite 5-star athletes out of the mix, and there's still some, but not as many, which is cool because in real life there's not that many that can play both sides of the ball, or you can plug and play. Um, but there's still gems you can find, which is huge. I think. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited to see how it all goes. What else? Recruiting battles is the new thing. We touched on that earlier, where once it's clear that there's pretty much 2 teams left in the running, everyone else is locked out, and instead of that guy committing right away, both teams kind of have their final week or 2 to make that push, and maybe you're putting more hours on the guy, or that kind of thing. Well, let's pose this then, Boone, with the last game, and I talked about on the draft show with the last game. The big schools had 900 to 1,000 hours where they could use, and once that initial wave of visits was done, weeks 2, 3, and 4, they could then take all those hours because all those players are either committed to them or committed somewhere else. They had 1,000
Right.
hours. They could go get the next tier of guys that, for example, me and you might be after, or Van might be after, where then all of a sudden Texas comes in and just steals all of Van's 4 stars he's been talking to the whole time, or Van's 3 stars away. Um, with the guys not committing as fast and right after visits, and you have to keep those points on them longer, I think there's a chance for smaller schools to have a chance
Yeah,
at some of these players.
that's a good point.
Just a little bit. I think that ultimately it was a it was a tall task in this game because they just had so much influence over these players. So I think that not only with the travel system being a better system for us to have like recruits come in, um, like again, I think a lot of it comes down to the recruiting tree and just how much impact and how much tweaking they do on all that comes with that.
Yeah. yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to kind of see how it all plays out. But that was, I think they said what, yeah, in the article it says right here, when one school reaches the commitment threshold and another is right behind them, instead of them just committing to that school that hits the commitment threshold, it's going to give that final week or two where you can make that push. It's going to be, a true head-to-head finish, which is going to be very cool. Where I think some of these teams are going to have to keep those, 60, 70 hours on these players and hopefully give smaller schools a chance to get some of their guys in the door and get those guys to commit. Because as a big school, you'll have to make a decision kind of quick. If you wanted to go for that next tier of guys, you're gonna have to get off your recruits that you don't see going to your school, and if you don't get off early enough, you might be not shit out of luck, but you might miss out on that second tier who then commit to the smaller schools. So ideally, in theory, it should work, but very interesting to see because when I played the beta, I was testing to see if guys committed after visits, and they weren't. It would give you a chunk of the bar, but it was nothing like we saw in the last one, where you could be in the top, you could get to the top three, and they committed that following week if you had a visit. So, um, very excited to see how that works. I really, really, really hope that computer teams recruit because I would love to see recruiting battles with the CPU teams as well. Um, Even if it means you don't get the guy, I still want to see the next tab, recruit generation. There's now 4,100 recruits around the country, which is way more than they had last cycle.
How many do they have this cycle? Do you know?
This year is 4,100. I don't know what it was last cycle, but I think I want to say it's over 1,000 more players in the player pool, which hopefully means there's more playable 3 stars, more 4 stars out there you can grab. I think there's always only 25 5 stars, so that it doesn't make it more top heavy, but hopefully
32.
yeah 30, yeah, depending on. But I really hope that it means that um, there will be 4 stars out there that the 5 star schools don't even talk to because they're so deep down the board, and it gives the small schools a chance if they meet their deal breakers and they're in their area and they get a chance to go get them. So I'm excited, that'll be a very, if it all works, could be pretty cool. So, um, what is this? We've also reworked how pitches and deal breakers were assigned to better reflect wants and needs of players today. Glamour positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, corner, edge rusher. Now put a much heavier emphasis on brand exposure because that's NIL, for example. Um, so that'll be cool to see where, the offensive lineman knows NIL, maybe the offensive linemen are more pro potential, where the, quarterback and some of these other guys that know they can, get NIL deals are going to be, so hopefully that's the case. I think that's some pretty cool logic that they've added to the game. Again, a lot of quality of life improvements. Um, I don't think a lot of our users even use the swaying in recruiting.
Heavy luxury.
Not enough time,
Yeah, well,
maybe.
that was the
Yeah.
problem. Now you can use it because you don't have to worry about guys committing right after the visit, hopefully. So it might
Yeah.
even the playing field if you're trying to sway to get some of your grades to match up with that recruit. Maybe you get a chance to actually use sway rather than if you use sway, you were basically giving the other school who's not using sway a huge head start, and it was very, very, very hard to come back from, especially if you were the lower tier school. So that if sway is very interesting, and they even explained how to use sway in here. So if you didn't get to experiment with sway at all in the last game, it can really help. If the guy is just missing one or two, he's not interested in you, but you can flip a couple of your grades that make him look like he's very interested in you. Could be a very useful tool for this game. It sounds like.
There's another thing that they had said today too, that now you can see your chances of winning this way in succession. So there's a little window that pops up, and if the guy's not gonna turn
Yeah,
his
right here.
grade for you,
Yeah, the success rate.
yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah, right there.
Yep. That Yeah, very cool. So you can kind of see, yeah. So maybe you're not wasting your time if you and again, you gotta know your school. If you are Western Kentucky and you're trying to sway a dude on pro potential or something, it might not work out for you. So at least season one and season two. So um, this is all just the sway stuff. Recruiting quality of life. Team needs. What else we
The
got?
fact that the
I
fact that they
interpreted that differently. I didn't think that they were saying that was going to be a visual thing that was on the screen at all time. I think that they were
Yeah,
just. I thought that they were just explaining how it worked. So if you have two check marks, your chances are obviously higher
yeah.
of getting it to convert. I didn't.
The
I didn't think you were going to see it, but maybe that
If
would be cool.
successful, this will add your chosen ideal pitch as a recruit. Yeah, that'll be again testing. Got to get in there and see what happens. I guess, especially at small schools where your grades fucking suck.
for
Um,
the recruit for the recruiting quality of life too, they also put all the attributes in the
yep.
same spot. Speed's all in the same spot.
Yeah,
Catching's all in the
that's
same spot.
which is good because again, that it means they listen to the community, which is big. I'll take any quality of life improvement. Anything where you don't have to flip 5 screens just to get to what you want to see is big. So, um, what else? Single quality of life did they say? Module updates in real time. She had to remove players, make informed decisions. Doo-doo. Yeah, that'll be the team needs being at the top is helpful too. Just knowing, how many players you have at the position, how many are leaving, what you need to kind of fill up on is nice. Um,
Only recruited wide receivers, so I don't know.
yeah, what was the thing they were talking about? That was a cool one. The favorites, you could favorite a recruit, um,
Yeah.
without adding them to, I guess they have to be added to your board, but it lets you keep tabs on that recruit, because they'll be under your favorites, which is nice. Kind of like the draft prospect
Interesting.
screen where you could add them to your board. Um, I think that gives you, a chance to then you can go right into your favorites. Like these are the guys I got to hit my visit weeks on, and scroll through that way. There were a couple other
They've also
things. Go ahead.
sorry, they've also added a little red button, like
Yes,
yeah,
the
right there.
red. Yeah,
Yeah. So when they're ready for a visit or whatever, I think that pops up.
yeah, the red dot, and then it was showing green arrows and red arrows if you moved up and moved down. So you might see someone you have to put a little more effort into. Somebody who you move
That's
up on, you're trending in the right direction. You got a chance to go get that guy. Um, Different ways you can filter it now: max star rating, minimum pipeline level, recruiting stage. Um, Very going to be very interesting. I like it. Like I said, quality of life is changes are always good, especially when we're playing this game. 11 months out of the year. There's definitely the game. The first game was lacking in the quality of life situation. So, what else we got? Player progression. Well, just so everyone knows, they do have manual progression. We're gonna have that off. It's gonna be auto again. I think that was fun, where you didn't quite have control over the guy what he was upgrading, which can be frustrating at times. But I think that is great. Um,
On that topic, two important things that I think are is that they increased the total amount of attributes that the recruit has to physically
yeah.
go through to spend.
yep.
So we might see that motivator is significantly more important this year. It
Yeah.
probably won't be, but we
Yeah.
might see that it makes a big difference having the motivator because you have all that extra space to fill up.
Yep. And then they did
You
mention
won't
here
have to
too.
random. Yeah.
Same thing with dev trade being a thing plays a bigger role in offseason progression, which I think we were missing. I felt like last year it was completely random the off season training stuff, where it wasn't like
Yep.
if you had a guy who was elite versus a guy who was normal, it was pretty random who got the bumps, who got the abilities. Like it was, um, well, it's still very variability in how a player develops in the off season. Players with impact star and elite dev traits will have a higher minimum amount they will progress. This increases the likelihood that those players with better development trait will progress with the normal trait. Yeah, and then the other cool part was the weight gain. I think that's sweet because
Oh
you
yeah.
you might get a tiny freshman who all of a sudden puts on 10 pounds, which it's supposed to be a physics based game. So hopefully that plays a role. It could also play a huge role, especially with our rules, in if guys can qualify for sub linebacker or corners can move to safety or things like that. If you have a corner that puts on 10 pounds throughout his time there, he might be eligible to go move to safety and play safety for you. So, and that was cool because it's tricky for us because we skip through the training result stage because that's one that we can jump through quick where there's nothing you have to really do. But there might be maybe we have a 10, 15 minute window where if you're able to hop on, you can get a look at that and see who went up, who went down, how many points, that kind of thing. Could be pretty useful, especially the weight gain stuff. Um, what was the athletic facility? So now there's only one grade that is a static grade that can't change, and I think that is campus lifestyle, I believe. Because now athletic facilities can improve. Um, Last year, facilities grade in my school now increasing amount of progression. Yeah, so but yeah, well that too. Better athletic facilities will hopefully lead to your players developing more. So higher athletic facility grade is, the bigger your player progression boost will be. Athletic facilities are just another factor that contributes to long-term program building and hides the divide between powerhouse programs and those still finding their footing, which is cool because again, in real life, when you have strength, your strength program is huge. Your strength, nutrition, all that stuff at your school, the bigger schools pay more and have have better ones, where some of the smaller schools are just trying to get by. So anything that can make you want to see the difference between the elites and the rest of the schools. Like there needs to be as much as we all don't want to see the top schools keep getting better, but it'll be very satisfying if you do build up your small school and you get that athletic facility grade up. All of a sudden, you're going to see bigger boosts on your players, which, the Air Forces, the San Diego States, the Memphises this past cycle didn't get that. They were kind of still that small school now just playing in a big conference. But hopefully we see that change a little bit. Um, Physical abilities. What did they mention? They mentioned
Yeah, you need three. In some attributes, you need three different attributes to get the ability.
yeah, instead of just having juke or spin or whatever it was for certain ones,
Yeah, you need
acceleration.
Oh, I like that a lot.
for takeoff. You need like acceleration and agility.
Yeah, which is cool because I mean that you might have a player who might have really high acceleration but not have the agility or change of direction, and all of a sudden, and I think that was tied to like the higher ones, getting to platinum, getting to gold had multiple, but with you could still get bronze and silver and stuff with just one for some of them. So um, it changes based off the tier of that ability too, which is cool because like they've talked about now there's that Heisman tier of abilities where if a player has purple and he's playing well in a game, all of a sudden he kind of gets like quote unquote in the zone and now has the ability to get to that Heisman tier for the ability and make special plays that not every player can make, which I think will be really cool and hopefully make those elite players play better than the other really good players on the field. So
Yeah.
um, anything else on that? You can increase the odds of players upgrading the development trait by getting more archetypes or more building up your coach. Dev trait can upgrade based off of progression in the off season and mid season, which I think is cool. If a player's playing well, hopefully he goes from normal to impact or whatever it is. So what else we got? And they actually
So
let
all
you
your
know in halftime.
quarterbacks will be all Heisman's,
I hope
all
so.
Heisman level
I,
fucking abilities and
I
shit.
hope so. It's gonna we got to build a little bit. UCF's got a couple years of taking our lashings before we get to play with the big dog. So
Well, you look good while you're taking the lashings. You'll be okay.
that's what we're here for. I really was hoping we'd get the I as fun as it was being able to compete for the top recruits. You want the best part about college is the recruiting and like if I go in there and beat out, Florida for a recruit, that will be my national championship, like that will be a huge get for my program. And like that's those little wins, that's what keeps you coming back. That's the fun stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's gonna be fun. Weight gain right there on the screen over here.
Small change there. The training results of them showing what actually
Yep,
changed.
the pluses.
Huge. Oh man,
Hmm.
couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, that's huge. I think it'll be. That's why I think we're gonna have to spend some time in that training results stage, just so people can kind of get in there and look and get an idea of who went
Nah,
up,
nah,
who
nah,
went
nah,
down.
nah, nah. We're not extending this damn shit any longer. If you're on to see it, you're on to see it. If you're not, tough titties.
Yeah. We'll give a 10 to 20 minute window.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Okay, fine.
but
Better
yeah,
be. Yeah,
from there,
fix that.
that's yeah. The other cool part, position changes. They mentioned if you were trying to change a player's position, he loses all his abilities unless they have the same ability. So for instance, like if you have a linebacker that moves to safety, if their same archetype has, thumper or whatever the hell it was called, whatever some of the abilities are,
Hammer.
yeah, they would keep that ability, but they would lose, just because they were platinum in two other ones, they don't get to keep a platinum ability, which you kind of saw in these other games. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's so you really have to think before you change the guy's position, or when you set that athlete that you get, you have to, okay, where do I actually want this guy to play? And if I do change him, I better change him his sophomore year rather than his senior year. Because that was the other thing. Like, you could move people around, into your senior year, and you got to keep a lot of those abilities. Now you're going to see that guy's going to be bare. You're going to be, raw dogging some safeties or some linebackers out there, which will
I
be
bet
fun.
you're gonna raw dog a lot of players, bro.
Oh, I can't
Why?
wait.
Raw dog.
We're gonna.
Jeez.
That's what me and Van call it. When you have a guy out there with no abilities, you're raw dogging.
Yeah, that's a
That's,
fucking the whole
Yep.
secondary.
Mm-hmm.
that's
You know,
sick.
raw dog in the corners with no house call. You're just playing. You're just throwing guys out there, hoping somebody makes a play.
Just out there fucking with nothing.
Yep. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Again, roster management. It all, like, a lot of it's going to come to roster management in a lot of different aspects. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. Wear and tear. This is going to be the interesting one, because now it plays a role in season and career health. Every player now has season and career health pools that determine how much wear and tear they can recover from in a single season over the course of their career. So this is going to be a cool one, because if you're starting someone as a freshman, giving them 300 carries, and he's getting hit sticked and kind of, bopped around a little bit, you better keep
You better
eye on that
suck
career
it up.
health. Yeah,
You better suck
yeah,
it up.
he better suck it up.
Hey,
Um,
listen, if you came to Western Kentucky, you ain't have much of a career after college anyway. All right. So we're gonna use it all. All right.
yeah, I mean, it's so true though. That's where, like, they got it on the screen here, but the little bars on here for season and career health. I think, again, roster management. Maybe early on in the guy's career he's splitting carries with another running back, and then he finally gets to be that feature back his last two seasons or something like that. It's gonna, I think it affects everybody, actually. I was gonna say the bigger schools because you have a lot of players, but the smaller schools, you try to get your good guys on the field, they're gonna be pretty beat up by the end of those 4 years. So,
It is what it is.
and now we have the ability to kind of set the sliders for wear and tear, where how much of an impact does a normal tackle have? How much does a block shed have? How much does a hit stick? How much does an impact block? So, um, it was talked about in chat, but like I always put my starters on my kick return team or my kickoff team, because I want my guys with the abilities to go down there, cause fumbles and that kind of thing, or my fast players. Now I might have to reconsider, because if they go down there and get, the guy breaks a tackle, all of a sudden my starting linebacker might be all worn and torn for when I actually need him to play. So, I think that's gonna be a lot of testing there on different wear and tears, and obviously you want the hit sticks and different things to make a huge difference, but we'll have to tweak it around a little bit. But see, kind of going along with wear and tear, you got the auto sub strategies now, where you have to keep fresh, the normal, grind it out, and custom. Um, where again, it comes down to roster management. Do you have multiple players you can get get the handoffs? You have multiple receivers that can be back there. Maybe you don't have your starting receiver back on kick return anymore. All stuff we're gonna have to really look into, and you're gonna have to kind of have in the back of your mind because if wear and tear works like it should, which I hope it does, it's gonna be very here. Here's the auto sub settings, but it's gonna be very interesting to see how different people, maybe you manage it early in the season, but then you change it to grind it out for playoff time or different things like that. So very, very, very cool stuff there. And then here's all your custom settings for it. Normal tackle impact, catch tackle impact, hit stick impact, cut stick, defender tackle advantage impact, sack attempt, block impact, and then you could actually pick how they recover. In timeouts, do they get recovered? In between quarters, each play, how much do they recover? So all things we're gonna have to kind of look into and kind of tweak throughout the first couple of seasons. I mean, you'd love to see like hit stick and different things like that play a huge factor, especially because if you whiff a hit stick, there was a lot of hit stick whiffing this past cycle. I don't know about you guys, but hit stick was not a guarantee, which
I think with pursuit angles being a little bit better, you're going to see more.
I hope so because I only use hit stick to tackle. I don't even know how to
Yeah,
tackle without it.
you just go in submarine, full
I
speed
go
ahead.
hit stick and strip every single time, hoping one of them helps me out. You guys got anything else on wear and tear? Guac, you got anything on wear and tear?
I just hope my players don't die, man. I'm interested to see what happens. Like, is it going to be? You know how this past game, it was, your quarterback gets hit once and he's got a broken leg. Like, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see, is it going to be like that for like career wear and tear, or like what are we going to see? How realistic is it going to be? I'm very curious. It's one of those things. I hope it's as dynamic as it seems.
They did say what toughness plays a role in it. So
Yeah,
they might, recruiting players with high toughness ratings and stuff like that plays a role. Um,
there, there's also one of the coaching trees that has increased toughness and wear and tear stuff
yeah.
on it, so that might be a big one.
The other
We're
cool
only
thing
going
they
to say this
mentioned.
once,
Go
fellas.
ahead.
Please do your homework before selecting your coach.
Yep. The other
No whining and
thing,
bitching later.
yeah. The other thing that they mentioned that in the presentation deep dive, if a quarterback's shoulders hurt or a running back's ankles hurt or whatever it is, they are gonna like kind of walk when they're walking up to take the snap. He'll be grabbing at that shoulder. The running back will be grabbing at his thigh. Like they'll be giving you a cue on the field that they're kind of beat up. Which I think again, when you're playing 200 games, those little things make a huge difference. Where it's not just the guy is dying and he just looks normal. If the guy is dying, the quarterback's gonna come out and be like, "Bro, get me off the fucking field, dude! Like this is." He'll be
Well,
grabbing at
in
his
fairness,
head.
like in the last game, well, this game that we're currently playing, they would be exhausted. You could see when the running back was exhausted.
Yeah, oh
Maybe
yeah,
not, but like you could see they get up slow, they'd hold their body. Now, my only wish, and I've been asking for this since freaking Madden, whatever Madden it was, where you could avoid the hit stick animation by doing the backspin.
yeah,
If you juke into a hit stick in any way, I want to see that motherfucker bright red. You
yep.
jumped into this hit stick with no force. You should be so hurt. You need 5 plays on the sideline. I want you
if
losing your
you
breath.
if you watched
When not,
any of yeah, if you watched any of Boone's streams in the past, you'd be like, this man should be dead. He turned his back to a hit stick. His spine should be broken. Like it was Boone would get very
like
Boone
the
fans
angle
for
was
that for a while.
already not great, right? But
Yeah.
I'm already playing you for the spin back. If you're running full speed, you stop and spin back into a
Yep.
full dive hit stick.
Yep.
Your helmet should be off.
Yep.
You should be on a Jadavian Clowney highlight film. Like
Yeah.
I need that type of physics in this game,
And again,
please.
that
Because
yeah,
the way
that
they treated my quarterback when I got sacked twice, he had -12 throwback. I
yeah,
don't
it was
understand.
bad. Mm-hmm. Delivering real college football world. Added Missouri State and Delaware. Shout out Ilio taking Delaware. That's gonna be a tough, tough, tough build. I
I
can't
like that. I
imagine.
like the energy though. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I can't
He's so mad.
imagine I can't imagine
3 seasons.
I can't imagine there's many good college football players in the state of Delaware. So he will have his work cut out for him trying to find
I mean,
those local
shitheads live in
kids.
Delaware. You know what I mean? Like, no one chooses to live in Delaware voluntarily.
I agree. I 100% agree. Except unless you live in Maryland, because taxes.
Yeah, it's gonna be very, very cool. Again, the little things that make a huge difference. So, this one, the college football history obviously goes back to 1869. So I was 100 years off. Um, but just being able
I
to
was
look,
35.
yeah, just being able to look at, the past Heisman winners, the past award winners for each thing at the end of the cycle, without having like a Neon Sports page or anything like that. This is a pretty cool way of getting a look. Especially the end of cycle. Okay, I can go see. Okay, this guy won 3 Player of the Years. This guy won 2 Offensive Lineman of the Year. Whatever it is. So
Oh,
that's a
that's gonna be
nice,
fun.
yeah,
Imagine. Let me see the national champions. You know what I mean, when Jim
dude,
Crow was still
yeah,
around. It's gonna be so
yeah.
fun.
Pre 3/5 compromise. Yeah. Okay.
Let me see. Before black people were allowed on the field. Got it. All right.
Oh no. Okay, we're almost through it. Let's see. As you're done getting full, speaking of awards, 14 authentic awards, including the Maxwell Award. That's just the normal stuff there. But yeah, this screen too, you can see who made it, who they played against, the score, the winning coach. You can kind of go through and see. Which again, when you're playing 15 seasons,
That's
especially with
cool
30,
though.
yeah, content is this is a great way to look at it, and it shows the record for both teams. Like that's really cool to see. So excited to see how we can build on that. Um, Career stats and awards actually showing on player cards is huge because that did not happen. That was it, they had the tab in the old one, but it didn't update. So like when Conklin won his 4 Heisman's, I went to go take a screenshot of all his awards, and there's just a blank page. So it was, that'll be nice to at least, kind of see, over the course of the year, this guy was a 3-time first team All American and this and that and that. So,
I
um,
missed the NCAA 14 where they would put the trophies up top and you can cycle through.
yep. Hopefully the trophy room is useful for us. So, um, this
And
was
hopefully they
interesting.
fix the in general.
Yeah, this down the way. Tigers a runner. They fixed the tiebreaker logic, which is cool because if you don't remember at the start of college football 25, the only tiebreaker they had was alphabetical order. And it might not have affected some people, but for me, I had Ohio State and Penn State, who both came before Oregon in the alphabet. So if we were all tied at the end of the year, VBD and NWS got to play in the national championship, and I had to watch. And I was like, hold on, like they're not even going by. I beat one of them head to head. It didn't even matter. So now they have head to head. Common opponents, and then the CFP ranking determines the placement of it. So I will take any actual logic they can put in there, which helps. We don't need to look at that. That's just back to and they said it is actually going to update in real time in the conference standing. So if a team is tied, but this team has a tiebreaker, you'll know where you stand compared to the other 10-2 team. Like in this graphic, Texas A&M must own the tiebreaker over Alabama. Um, so that's cool to see. This was an interesting one because I didn't really expect this. Which I think again plays a nice role in content if you wanted to do content on these cool new stats.
Hint, hint.
Quarter. Yeah, yes. Do your content. Touchdown percentage: the number of touchdowns divided by the number of pass attempts for a quarterback. Sack rate, interception percentage, touchdown interception ratio, net yards per pass attempt, adjusted net yards, fumble rate for running backs, touchback, and I don't care about that one because it's punters. Um, and then team stats too, which they did say the playing style. They revamped playing style for recruits because you could if you were after an elite corner who cared about play style, but your defense was getting like 6 sacks a game, so there weren't a lot of chances for interceptions, that corner was like, yeah, I'm not coming. But now that corner's play style is going to be tied to team stats, so it might be time to tied to points per game, or where your defense ranks in total yards, that kind of thing. Which I think that helps in realism. Because I remember at the end, me and Quacks were fighting for a 5-star edge rusher who cared about play style, and I just started all out blitzing at the end of games. I'd be winning by 20, and I would just send, a run commit to try to just up my sack total so I could get a chance to get this guy. So That'll be kind of cool to see that update. Yeah, team stats that we didn't have before. This one, we've talked about this on a previous podcast, but the new archetypes. I think I'm hoping that they made, instead of building just with like the same, every team looking the same, like we talked about with the scrambling quarterback, the deep threat receivers, the elusive back. Hopefully, they make some of these archetypes actually matter. Like I think there's going to be the ones that don't matter, like gritty possession. No one's going to go after a gritty possession receiver, but you might go after a jump ball guy. You might have to go. I know Van really wants these gadget receivers.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
listen, let anyone 4-star and up have interest in Western. You
Yeah.
could be a goddamn water filler. You're welcome at Western. Gritty possession sound good to me. I like it.
Who's taking Julian Edelman all day?
Gadget,
Yeah, please, thank you.
gadget receiver is basically just Ray Blackburn reincarnated, the do-it-all
Sounds good.
player. So we will be
Oh no,
ready.
wait, time out. What the fuck are you talking about? Ray Blackburn was big as shit.
Yeah, but he
He happened to make him run screens. That's it.
he played running back. He played
We made
wide.
him.
He did it
We
all.
made him.
He was a
We
true
made him.
gadget offensive weapon. So my
He
roster,
wanted to be a physical route runner, and you
Yes.
hoed him into doing some bullshit.
my entire receiving core is going to be gadget players that I can just move all around, have somebody in the backfield. It's going to be I'm a bunch of Debo Samuels. It's going to be sick. Boone's going to hate playing
Fucking
me.
disgusting. I'm not playing you. I
Week
don't have to.
zero, week
I don't
zero,
have to goddamn-
every year. I don't know.
I'm in the West. I'm
You're
in
the
the
protected
Western
opponent.
Nubian Conference, bro. Listen, we don't have to play you. We don't play anybody. Okay,
Oh, you'll be playing people.
our
It's gonna be
games don't even make it on national TV.
we'll get you scheduled with Delaware.
For what? No, we don't need to be there. Just leave me alone in my own little world.
That won't be any fun. We'll get
Let me tell you, I'm not playing. I'm not playing bracket this year. I know that fucking much.
no first
good.
year.
Bullshit, you're not.
Year one is the normal schedule, but after that, get ready.
Nope.
We're customized.
We're rejecting all. No, until you bring back conference commissioner, we're rejecting all invitations. We're good.
We are gonna have Western Kentucky lining up against Alabama, Western Kentucky against all the big dogs.
Anyone who's I'll do a computer. I'm not doing a person.
No, it's a bummer you don't have a say in that, but we will see how it goes.
Crazy. Why are you walking me my starting? Have you seen my starting lineup, bro?
Yeah, it's similar to mine, I think. Not quite, but yeah, I
The
think
most athletic person on my team is my mascot.
yeah, he's sweet. That little red thing.
Big Red, man. Come on. We gonna have you. You gonna be a fan. I'm telling you. TOPS. Stop.
I did for a while. I didn't even know. I was trying to think of what Western Kentucky was, and I remembered it's the Hilltoppers.
The Hilltops.
Which
Yeah.
is brutal, but you
Not
got
brutal. Great.
little-
You see the eyes? We're always
yeah,
watching you.
yeah. Those helmets are sick. But yeah,
Your mascot's a furry.
Do y'all have a movie named after your team? Because last I checked, the Hills have eyes. I'm just saying.
Oh boy, Boone's already got his content ready for the first.
I'm ready.
The first 2 weeks of every season. But yeah, so what I really hope with the archetypes, though, what I really hope with the archetypes is I hope we get to see a mix. Like just because you go get the the elusive power back, I hope we see some that are only elusive. I hope we see some that are like they don't get shifty, they don't get those certain ones. So some are just true power backs, some are true elusive runners. The route artists. Me and Van have talked about this, but I'm hoping that we still see like fast route artists. I hope we still see fast physical route runners. I hope it's not just like, oh, every physical route runner is 86 speed. Like we need to see a good mix, and hopefully that's what we get. I know the rosters out of the box will, but the the generated recruits is what matters more for us because we got 15 or so seasons to play. So, but I think it's going to be very interesting because it sounds like the jump ball's back. So I hopefully we see some contested specialists out there, rather than just all speedsters. So it'll be very interesting to see, and I hope they all have a role. And I hope you have to kind of build your roster, accordingly. Where if you want to have, depending on what what play style you go with, you might need gritty receivers. You might need those, certain types of players. So Formation subs, people have been asking for that for a long time, so I'm happy that's back. Just being able to, certain formations, you like to run the ball out of, you get your big body receivers in there, get your small guys out. It's going to be a good way to help manage the roster, get people play time. Um, custom conferences and protected opponents. For those who don't know what protected opponents are, for example, Michigan, Ohio State. Every single year, no matter what, Michigan, Ohio State play the last week of the season, they're protected opponents. No matter what happens with the schedule, Michigan always plays Ohio State. You can set up to two. I think it's two max per team. So if we did want to make sure users played every year, we could set conference protected opponents to make sure that you're playing that same conference guy every single time. So it'll be cool. Just another way to ensure we see user games and different things like that. Or we can have, if you're in the same conference as someone else and you do want to play every year, you guys come to an agreement that you want to be protected opponents. And it's a cool way. We get a fun matchup every year, Florida State, Clemson every year, that kind of thing. So rather than the normal rotating schedule where, the rest of your schedule can rotate, but you still play those rivalry games that are going to be key and huge. So like Guac JMO every single season, end of the year, it's going to be a fun one for at least 2 seasons before one of them gets fired. So um, what else? Yeah, here's
That's
your
my
look at
stuff.
that. Hey, I'm just giving.
Podcasts are now just opportunities for Nick to throw jabs. I love it.
That's what we're here for. There's no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm already ready to boot any of our Florida users that go after 3 stars. So we'll see what happens.
Ask me about my winner.
I did not click it. Scheduling updates. They got all the actual real life games all the way to 2040, which is cool. So it doesn't really affect us outside of season one, just because we do custom schedules anyways. But custom college football playoff, they updated that to reflect real life, where your buys now go to the top 4 teams rather than the conference winners, which is cool. I think a lot of times it was better to land at that 5 seed or the 6 seed than it was to actually have a bye, because you'd end up playing, a top team your second round, and then you watch somebody else skate by playing, I think my last playoff run, I lost my conference championship, and then I got to play Rice and ECU in my first 2 rounds, which, huge advantage compared to NWS, who won the conference and had to go play, the number 5 seed. So, this is cool. I like the season stats in the corner here, where it shows, you can kind of that right trigger now will show their dev trait, will show their season stats, will show a bunch of different things about the player rather than having to
That's
go
a
into
clean
the player.
screenshot
Yeah, that's dude. The fact that
right there.
Zachariah Branch is at Georgia and no one took Georgia is crazy. But hey, here we are.
The fact that he was at Oregon last year, wasn't he?
He was at
Where'd he go?
USC. He was at USC, but then he transferred. He transferred to Oregon in ours.
I thought he transferred to Oregon in real life.
No, he was USC. He was a dog too. So we'll see what happens there. But development traits and player module, quick access to team schedules, conference standings, and top 25 polls. The members tab, that's nice for us, but still can't do the lovely old setting force wins from there. Crossplay obviously gives us another chance to bump our user count up. This is a cool one they had in the presentation one as well. The dynamic time of day, where if you're playing a 5 o'clock game out in California, it's going to be sunny and you want to have the lights on versus a 5 o'clock or like an 8 o'clock game out in Michigan, where it'll be not night game. So that'll be cool. The lighting, again, when you're playing 200 games, those little things play a big role in how the game
I mean,
looks.
that's huge because like when I go to choose my uniform, I'm definitely looking to wear those mirror chrome helmets under the lights.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Little things like that. Broken record feedback, that's cool. You get just a lot of, they give you those quality of life updates here where you get to see when coaches leave, when players, players head awards, when players dev traits go. It's going to be, you'll get this screen where it shows what happened. So that is cool. Coach stats force one update. They changed that where it's instead of home and away, and you had to try to figure out who's home and away in a lot of games, especially the college football playoff. Now you get to pick the team that wins. Redshirt update, they fixed that where now the players, you can redshirt them, they can play in 4 games and they can play in the playoffs, which is nice. In the bowl games, you can kind of see what you have with your players. Team builder doesn't really matter. This would be the year to do the team builder team, so that would be so sick. That's the dream. We need to do a second league of just team builder teams where you get to build your program. Because this is what I want, where everyone gets 1 A+, everyone gets 2 A's. You can kind of build your team how you want with with the grades that matter for you. Um,
Fake players off the rip. Oh my god, everybody at
Dude,
2-star
that
school. I
would
love it.
be that would be the dream. You can customize all the names of your players. Oh man, um, that would be
Then
that's my dream. I'll build uniforms for all fucking 32 users if they don't want to do them. Freeze rivalries for
So
all
when do we sign up
historical.
for that?
I would love to. We can do that right now. Um, well, what else? I guess so. That's the end of our article here. What what's the feature you're most excited about? What do we not talk about? You guys want to hit on? Van, let's start with you.
I honestly think if the portal works the way that they've advertised, it's going to be such a game changer for everybody.
Yeah.
I just hope. Yeah, I mean, I don't love the over promise thing. They have a lot of things they haven't delivered on, but if that one hits, man, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a big need. Boone, what about you? What are you looking forward to most, or what feature do we not hit on you want to talk about?
Um, I guess my favorite at this point would have to be what they plan on doing with the playtime, only because that really affected. I feel like a lot of players I felt like were being just held up on teams
Yep.
despite not having any like that feature alone. We talked about it at least like almost every other podcast I was on. Like, bro, it just doesn't make sense why a 5-star quarterback would want to go to the school who has 5 other 5-star quarterbacks on roster.
Yep.
You'll
Where
never
Kaliko
start.
Conklin is in his sophomore year, just off of a Heisman.
Still getting 5 star.
Obviously, the
Yeah.
starter. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Why is homeboy even
With the
looking
number
at
one
Oregon?
quarterback from last year sitting right behind him.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
That would be really. I'm hoping that one works because that'd be a big game changer. Bracket. What about you? What's your favorite improvement? I guess.
It was what Boone said. It
Yeah.
was the concept of them tying in players leaving based off of playing time, based off of snaps, and their actual usage. I think that's a huge deal for us.
Yeah. Guac. What about you, sir?
Your mic's not up.
My bad.
No, she wasn't ready.
Nah, like I'm excited to see like with a couple of the new archetypes. I'm excited to see what they bring to the table. I'm excited to see which ones are going to be obsolete. I think there's definitely a couple like running back archetypes that they added. It's like what the fuck are we doing here? Like why do we
Yeah.
have 7 different running back archetypes? Come on, man. Like it's just unnecessary. But I'm definitely curious to see like which stats are affected, and I definitely like that. Like shifty and different takeoff. Like it's more than one attribute.
Yeah, I think hopefully we see a couple different builds be useful. Like the north-south blocker or whatever, like there's some stupid ones that no one's touching.
You're gonna have a ton of those.
I
Yeah,
hope
that's
so. Y'all should not
You
touch those 4-star players.
you finna have a ton of those.
north, full roster of north-south blockers.
Hey, 4 stars. It's all right. We're building it up.
We pull.
I can guarantee you that I will at least have one.
I will have
I
zero.
don't know what this offense is going to look like. I know it's going to have them in it, whoever's available.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if you,
he's your
yeah,
gadget receiver.
the other thing I'm hoping like I hope not all pocket passers are just 6'6" slow dudes with high throw power. Like I hope we see some backfield creators, some dual threat guys with high throw power too. Kind of I hope we see some speedsters that also are like a 96 speed with some good catching ability, like attributes. Like hopefully we see good mixes of things.
I
Um,
won't call them unicorns. Like, I don't think they need to be unicorns, but like every so often there should be players in the pool who are just exceptional at
Yeah,
certain things, and you could have them on a level where like, okay, I'm gonna get the 95 throw power and the 92 speed, but he's gonna suck in
yeah,
acceleration, or he'll be trash in progression. He might not get that good because there's teams and schools that could use players like that, and they may not be any higher than a 75 or an 80, but that
yep,
means a lot to a Delaware or a James Madison.
yeah,
That's a start, you
yep,
know.
yeah, and that's
That's your
that's
Nasir Adderley.
yeah, that's gonna be yeah, and that's what you're kind of hoping for. So hopefully, on paper, everything looks great. They didn't hit on everything we wanted, but they got a lot. Where I'm definitely excited for the next game. I just yeah, I think roster building, roster management are gonna be keys, especially for those big schools where you're trying to balance your stud players and your stud recruits coming in. Because in real life, it's tough, man. Like you see every year that portal. All of a sudden, that portal week hits in real life, and I feel like everybody is in the portal. And even if they end up back at their own school, I think I. But my biggest thing I'm excited about would be the coaching carousel. I hope the coaching carousel works. I hope we see guys get job offers. I hope it's based off of success for the coach rather than the coach's rating or ranking. I guess the level of the coaches. Um, like if I'm a level 3, but I win the national championship, or if I'm a level 10 and I win my conference a bunch. Hopefully, I'm getting job offers that coordinate with where I'm at. So
I'm
I
really
would,
hoping it's a dynamic measurement system that
yep,
like if Elio takes his team to like just outside of playoffs, he
yeah,
should get a fucking offer
yeah,
from a good program.
yep,
Like what he did with a trash roster, that means something, right? Like
yep,
it doesn't have to be college playoffs, it doesn't have to be national title. But like if you do 10 wins and you beat some good opponents, like you that should mean something at a bad roster. Then vice
yeah,
versa. If
yep,
you fucking lose or only win 4 wins at fucking LSU or Texas, you should be out that bitch.
yep. So yeah, hopefully we see that. I would love to find a spot where, and I'm toying with the idea, but where you can take coordinator jobs to help kind of climb the ladder. Um, I'm trying to find a way we can do that where, because right now, if you take a coordinator job, you get all the head coaches' abilities, which we don't. We need to find a way to differentiate what your roster gives you versus but you want it like that's the pathway to move up a lot of times. A head coach to a small school, coordinator at a big school, then you get the head coaching job at a big school. So we might be able to be a coordinator this year. We got to test that and see. I have a couple ideas where like if you're a coordinator, you don't get any campus currency because it's not you running the program, you're just playing the games. Maybe if you win the national championship coordinator, you don't get the name on the banner. Certain things like that are gonna, play a role in that. So we'll have to see a lot of testing on this one, but we're gonna get through it quickly and get this thing started as soon as we can. So I'm excited. I think we just had one of our most successful cycles we've ever had in our entire community, and that's saying a lot with our 70 fucking seasons of Madden. So um,
I'm glad
hopefully
that's not.
yeah, no, we will not be back. Madden could give us everything we've ever wanted, and I'm never going to play Madden again. So,
I'm not
if
even buying
if
that.
you are
Not
no, me neither. If you're hoping for Madden coming back, you better go find another server for that. But,
starting
um,
back.
yep,
Hey, with other leagues that used to exist.
yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. But sweet, we'll go ahead and wind this up. Appreciate you guys jumping on here. Appreciate our viewers that stayed in chat with us. Yeah, boys, get ready. It's what 2 weeks away, maybe. Is that where we're at? July or early July
Yeah.
7th? Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, July
yep.
7th, early access. So right around the corner, we got our teams locked in. We got our
When does
30
it
team.
start?
When does ours start?
Yeah.
Hopefully, a couple days after the general release is the plan because I'm hoping to have all testing done, before the game even drops, really. So, um,
I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I got the week after all off for like 10 days.
That
oh,
sounds like we're not going to be able to get a hold of you that whole week.
I'm gonna be no. It is very obvious, evident. I have made it very clear. Don't even call my phone about it. All I know is I don't want to hear from you.
Yep, I think I think it's gonna be fun. Hopefully we get another 15 seasons in. A lot of user games for those Big Ten and SEC users, so get your scheduling ready. It's back to those Madden days for some of you guys, or you
That's
are.
another reason why I avoided that shit, bro.
Yeah,
I
you
can't.
can.
I don't want to hear. Oh, bro. No, 9:30 too late. I can't
Pussy.
play.
Yeah. Yep. So we will see. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been our deep dive of the Dynasty Deep Dive. As they release more info and the game starts to drop, we'll be back with a few more podcasts just to kind of gear up and get ready to go. So be on the lookout. Heath is putting out a big magazine with team previews, conference previews, predictions, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're full steam ahead here from now until July. So let's go ahead and get into it. Thank you guys, appreciate it, and we are out of here.
See
Ask
ya.
me about my week.